Today on the podcast, we have Ira Heiden from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. He brought us Will, the Wizard Master. Ira, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be on the podcast.
So we'll jump right in. Can you tell us how you got into the business?
Sure can. So I kind of rolled into California in 1985 and uh, got a manager to start looking into acting, Marilyn Sherman, who represented a few people like Forrest Whitaker, Jimmy Smits, my now like brother, Bill Allen, who was in the famous movie Rad, 80s movie. And we became, great partners, Marilyn and I, and started auditioning. And then I booked within like the first, God, like month and a half, not even, of me being in LA, a Pepsi commercial for the movies. And from then, it just kind of took off like a rocket.
Growing up, were you a film TV person? Did you enjoy film?
Yeah, I liked comedies mostly, movies and stuff like that. I loved cartoons, and I loved growing up reading and enjoying the Lord of the Rings. Gandalf was one of my favorite characters, and so yeah, it kind of helped me prepare for in the future role of Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Did you have a favorite film?
Growing up, there were two movies that I really liked. I really liked a movie by Peter Sellers called Being There. And also a movie by Mel Brooks called Blazing Saddles.
Did you have a favorite actor or actress growing up?
Well, growing up, the comedians that I really loved was George Carlin and Steve Martin. Yeah, Steve Martin was just always like just the best. I
Yeah,
used
I
to love
agree.
watching him when I could on Saturday Night Live, and yeah, he was really a cool person.
So let's talk about some of your early film credits, and of course we'll skip over Nightmare. That's kind of the main attraction, but we'll talk about some of the other stuff. The Brat Patrol.
Yeah, getting to work with my gosh, kids I knew back then, Billy Jacoby, who is now William Jane, some actor named Sean Astin.
I don't think
Um,
he amounted to anything.
yeah, it's crazy when you think then what you were working on and just how where everyone has gone from then.
Yeah,
We were all kids back then, and it was a lot of fun.
it's funny how many people I've talked to that's kind of where they got their start. They did these Disney TV movies.
Yeah, I am telling you, that was amazing to get to play a soda jerk, Ray, and I had no idea the kids that I was working with. It was crazy.
I wanted to talk about Family Ties.
Yes.
You did an episode of Family Ties, and I got to know what that was like.
So Family Ties was really cool. It was right after I finished filming Illegally Yours, where I played Rob Lowe's brother. Peter Bogdanovich directed, and I came back into LA and started auditioning again, and ended up getting the role of Mallory's student assistant as she was going to run for student president. So I got to work for a week on the Paramount lot, stage 22, I believe it was, right next to Cheers. And I remember on my breaks, I would go over to Cheers and watch them film, and I saw Woody Harrelson there, and um, yeah, that was really a great week. And it was really, I believe, my first sitcom that I had worked on, in front of a live audience. So it was a bit nerve-wracking, but it was just to get to work with Michael J. Fox was amazing. Who else was on that episode was Courtney Cox was on it. Skippy was on it. That episode. And it's really funny. I actually have a script where they all signed my script. That was a pretty big show back then, and I remember wanting to so badly be asked to play basketball with Gary David Goldberg because they had a court in Paramount and everybody would get out and play in the morning and stuff. And I loved, I'm a huge sports fan, love playing sports, tennis, basketball, racquetball, mountain bike riding. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get in there. But I never got the chance to like say, hey, you guys need an extra one? I'll be a bench warmer.
As we move through your filmography, Elvira, you want to talk about a horror icon? Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
You can't have Elvira without Ira.
Love it.
Elvira. I just saw her last weekend at Midsummer Scream in
Hmm.
Long Beach.
Yep.
Um, she's amazing. Um, that movie was incredible. I remember getting the call to audition for one of the kids in the town, and I remember the callback specifically was in the Valley, and I do remember about I think like 40 kids were there. And it was just going to be, it was three teenagers and one female teenager. And so they were trying different kids back and forth for a couple of hours. And then they said, okay, you guys take a break and then come back. And so I went up to Chris Cam and I was like, hey, dude, do you want to go grab some lunch? He's like, yeah, let's just hop in my Jeep. So we ended up getting, I think, Subway or something and really bonding. And then they called us to go back in. And lo and behold, both of us booked the job. And to get to read with Cassandra was just was awesome. She is by far the coolest chick ever. Um, I remember when we were filming it at Warner Brothers, I remember I had a 5 o'clock AM call and I remember going towards Crafty because I wanted coffee. And I passed this trailer, and I kid you not, Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle is blasting like I've never heard. And sure enough, on the front of the door, Cassandra Peterson's trailer. She's a rock and roll chick.
Love it.
To this day, we still text inappropriate jokes back and forth. Um, she's awesome.
The next film credit I want to talk about, Father of the Bride. What was it like working with Steve Martin?
So it was pretty awesome. For some reason, I didn't get nervous. I mean, he was, like I said, my favorite comedian growing up. Um, and I remember auditioning, being put on tape, and then the second callback, they called me to come on set, and I did the lines with the director and his wife. And they were like, yeah, okay, great, you got the job. And then we shot, I believe, the following week in Burbank at it was a Ralph's supermarket. Right now I think it's Pavilions. um, and so it was kind of fun because I got to be dressed up as a stock boy. um, and I kind of knew the role because I was a stock boy back when I lived in Tampa, Florida, bagging groceries and stocking shelves. So one of the greatest things I remember is they couldn't close the whole market, so they only closed a couple of aisles. So I would be waiting on the outside, and I had my name tag and everything, and people would be coming up to me with their cards. Do you know where the soup aisle is? Do you know where they keep the medicine? And I'm like, well, I don't really work here. Well, you look like you do. um, that was fun, and then that was the first time I met Steve was on set, and it was all I expected, and even more so. He was so um, chill, quiet, down to earth. But like when the camera was on, he was boom, like right there with you.
One other film I want to talk about. One of my favorite films of the last decade, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Those mini puffs. Let's talk about it.
Those are so good. So I've known Jason Reitman, the director, for
Mhm.
a while. I met him playing a game called Broomball. You play it on ice, but you have sneakers and you have a stick, and it's a
Mhm.
big ball. And so we used to rent out the Culver City ice rink from 12 midnight till about 2 a.m. on Thursdays or Tuesday. And they would play Beastie Boys blasting over the loudspeakers, and we played broomball, and his sister was there. Tons of people. It was so much fun. And then I got invited after that with my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, to go to like some of Jason's parties and stuff. Super. fun, super great guy. And we've been in touch over the years. And when I saw that he was getting ready to do Ghostbusters Afterlife, I wrote him and I said, I will do anything. Please let me be a part of it. I said, I do a ton of ADR. I don't know if you're familiar with ADR, but it's like the voices in the background
Mhm.
at restaurants, not the main characters, but the stuff, the chatter that's going on behind, maybe there's a ghost coming through and you scream and stuff. So he said, yeah, absolutely. Let's bring you in for ADR. So we did all that from like 9 to 3 with a bunch of people. And then they said, everybody, okay, go home, except Ira, stay. We need you at 4 o'clock. You're going to be voicing specific characters. I was like, oh, cool. I had no idea that it was the mini Stay Puffs. And then there were 9 other actors that came on, John Kassir being one of them, Tales from the Crypt,
Yep, Cryptid.
um, and a bunch of other phenomenal voiceover actors, and me, to get to voice all of those guys. From 4 to 7 o'clock to this day, it's the best voiceover, most fun I've ever had. Um, Jason's directions were just so spot on. We were cracking him up so hard he could barely talk. Um, it was just uh, a moment captured on film, which was amazing.
Prior to your involvement with Nightmare, how did you view horror movies?
I didn't like him. No, sir. Did not like him.
Same.
Always very scared. Never really wanted to be, into that scene. I remember in high school having to watch the first Nightmare. I was a senior with a ton of friends, and I literally like watched it like this. I was not into it. Amityville Horror scared the hell out of me. I was just not really. I mean, I liked Frankenstein and Dracula. I liked the old classics, but I don't know. I wasn't really obsessed with horror. Uh, so then to be you know, in a movie, in a horror movie,
Yeah.
uh, was pretty cool.
So you said you watched the first Nightmare in high school and you basically covered your eyes through the whole thing.
Yeah,
Did you kind of pick up on the storyline or did you largely tune it out?
it was so long ago, dude.
Yeah.
40 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think I was fighting the demons in my head. I just knew that Freddy scared the hell out of me.
Yep.
And, poor Johnny Depp, which, by the way, Johnny was in the Pepsi commercial I did, which it was right after he did Nightmare on Elm Street. Because he finished that, I think, and it came out in '84, and then he started still auditioning for commercials and stuff. So he booked that same Pepsi commercial that I did.
Very cool.
Um, so yeah, I didn't follow the plot line or anything. Um, but I do know that when my manager called me and said, "You're going to meet Annette Benson, the casting director, and it's for a movie called The Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. You're going to play a character that's in a wheelchair, but he turns into a wizard master." Well, I was like, that role is me. 'Cause I played D&D throughout middle school and some of high school. Yeah, again, like I said, Lord of the Rings, my favorite books, Gandalf, my favorite character by far. So yeah, I felt like I could nail that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. Let's get into Dream Warriors. I've got a visual up here. This is Will. He's in his wheelchair here, just a normal guy, D&D guy, as you were in real life. Dream Warriors opened February 27th, 1987. And throughout the film, we see that they have a new formula for Freddy. He preys on your weakness. So let's start talking about some of these deaths throughout Dream Warriors, because I think the death sequences of Dream Warriors kind of stand out against the rest of the series. We start with Philip, who is played by Bradley Gregg.
Bradley and I were friends before this movie, and I think I was on like my third callback, and then I went to have dinner at Sushi on Sunset. A bunch of us would go get sushi and hang out and talk about our auditions and stuff like that. And I saw Bradley, I think he was with Alfonso too. And I said, dude, you got to go. You have to get your manager, get you to get in on this movie, Nightmare 3. There's a cool ass character that you need to audition for. So he said, okay. And so he ended up getting the job. The camaraderie that we had, not only from knowing each other, but then on the movie, as you know, we were all trying to be friends and be there for each other. Um, he was amazing. What a crazy scene. That to me still is the best death, I believe. Um,
Fantastic.
I remember watching at UCLA, um, watching the stunt being taken, and watching the guy fall crazy off of Royce Hall.
Next, we have Jennifer, played by Penelope Sudrow.
She's trying to keep herself awake with cigarette burns, and then you have this iconic moment, and the TV turns into Freddy, and you get the famous line, "Prime
Welcome to
time."
prime time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
it couldn't be written any better, right? And I mean, the greatest thing about our movie is I feel like, you know, Freddy wasn't a joke, although his lines were jokingly there.
right.
It was crazy, you know. It's the
Yeah.
chair for you, kid. You know, like I mean, just the stuff that he would say, um, was just so spot on, and yet scary, and yet hilarious.
Next up is Taryn, played by Jennifer Rubin.
So memorable scene there with the syringe gloves and all of that
Ugh.
fun stuff. Still, the opening mouths on the arms still get me to this day. It's
Yeah, very scary. There's things that the
yeah.
veins. Oh,
Yeah. Then we get to this other scene where this kid named Will, who is bound to a chair, but now all of a sudden he recognizes his power and he jumps up and he's the wizard master. Take us through this whole sequence.
first he gets into dreamland in a crazy hallway. I can't find my friends. I'm scared out of my mind. I don't want to be alone because fully knowing that if we're alone, that's where I'll die. Where are my friends? I need them now. To all of a sudden hearing, and I'm like, who the? Sure enough, the wheelchair turns around, and then there he is. It's so fearful. It was just so so breathtaking in the way that you want to run and get the hell out of there, but you can't wake up. But stuck to my guns, and after that damn chair came at me, you know, I pulled out my powers that I could. I believed that I was the wizard who can take care of things, who can make butterflies out of nothing and take care of the demon, you know? And a lot of people are telling me that I really shouldn't have ran after him after I blew up that wheelchair. Like, why didn't I fight him from a distance? Like, but I think I just got so caught up in the hoopla, and you know, I just blew the hell out of this 6 foot wheelchair, and now I've got all this power, and I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna win this one for my friends and myself.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. Chuck Russell, the director, said when they were editing that scene, he said the editors were really mad that they killed me. I
Public
could have
fan
been in
favorite.
4. That would have been nice, right? To this day, I still, whenever I have conversations with Robert, I keep telling him I should have killed you when I could have. But then to turn into the wizard and, you know, have that power, you know, and see the weakness of Freddy, you know, like he rears back, like, what the hell did he just do? Again, it was running at him. That was not the best thing. And then he grabbed me, and the rest is history. The thing about the Nightmare 3 glove that Freddy wore is it was always retractable. And the day that we had my death scene, one of them wasn't working. So they had literally had to put a 2x4 underneath my wizard cloak, and hope to God that Robert hits its mark every time.
Nightmare 3 was a huge success at almost $45 million at the domestic box office.
How does it feel to be a part of that forever?
It feels great, and not only was the movie great, but I think the soundtrack really kicked ass. You know, to have Dokken on there, and to bring in like horror and rock and roll. You know, I mean, it was an incredible thing. Um, I think that also put a lot of oomph and power behind the movie. And then again, you know, it's these kids that are thrown into a mental ward, and everyone thinks we're cuckoo, when we're not, we're fighting a demon in our dreams, you know?
Hmm.
Um, that has a lot to do even today with the fact that, mental health awareness is such a huge thing right now. So many people are floundering and need to be heard. Um, 5 years ago or 4 years ago, we did a reading of Nightmare 3 at the famous Whiskey A Go Go. We raised money for mental health awareness. We raised $20,000 for Dee Dee Hirsch Foundation, suicide prevention. And that was the whole reason we did it. It was to help the kids and anyone out there. You could always call Dee Dee Hirsch, talk if you need to. That was one of the greatest things about this movie. And I didn't, I mean, I knew it was a special movie and, we bonded and everything like that. But I mean, like literally that movie, I made so many incredible friends. I mean, I just had an hour conversation today with Heather Lagenkamp. And Bradley Gregg's son lives right down the street from me. Bradley and I talk all the time, and Rodney Eastman and Kincaid, um, everybody. We really have stayed pretty close. Of course, the horror conventions help too when we all get to go to them. But it was, I knew it was special, but I had no idea until probably I'd say like 15 years ago when um, the conventions really were calling. And when you go to the conventions, all the fans are there, and then you could really realize what it's about.
And Dream Warriors will always be fondly remembered and widely regarded as one of the best of the entire franchise, if not the best, by a
Thank you.
large chunk of the fan base.
It's got my vote.
Let's talk about some current projects.
I did do a movie called Keep Quiet
Okay.
with that Lou Diamond Phillips is in. That's going to be coming out shortly, and it's a phenomenal movie.
Okay.
I play a bad guy. I play a pedophile, but it's a small role, but still meaningful in the sense of the film. And then, gosh, last week I just finished filming a movie called Catnip, where I play Bruce Dern's son. So it's Bruce Dern, it's Chevy Chase, it's Joey Lauren Adams, and Jake Busey is in it as well. It's not going to be coming out till the following Christmas, so 2026, but it's going to have a lot of hype and it's going to be really, really super cool. And then also, in the producing scheme of things, I'm producing a documentary on one of my buddies, the late great Brandon Lee. Brandon was a great friend for 4 years. You never know how long you're going to run with people. And it was a turbulent 4 years. But we have all these people in the documentary that talk about Brandon and just how great he was and how special he was and how his laugh was so infectious. And it's going to be hopefully coming out in November, called Starring Brandon Lee. Um, you have so many incredible people talking about Brandon. Melissa Etheridge was part of the crew back then. Lou Diamond Phillips was part of the crew. John Lee Hancock, who became a wonderful director. He was writing at the time. He actually borrowed Brandon's laptop to write A Perfect World, which
Wow.
starred Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty cool. I'm really proud of that. And then also, we're in the works of getting money together because we have the biopic. Um, and it's the story uh, told through Brandon's best friend's eyes, Bill Allen. And Robbie Krieger is our executive producer, and he's also our music man, and he also wrote our lead song already. Lou Diamond Phillips is going to be directing that, so stay tuned for that one. Brandon was a force, man. He was such a force.
As we look forward to October, let's talk about the Scarefest weekend event coming up, and specifically the Nightmare on Elm Street reunion. Dream Warriors alone, so far we have 8 different cast members. How excited are you for Scarefest?
I'm looking forward to being in Lexington for the first time ever.
We have I think, over 20 different Nightmare on Elm Street alum going to be there now, which is wild. And then if you count the repeat performances, there are like 37 or 38 roles from different
Wow.
movies that are accounted for. So, those people with those giant cast posters, their bank account already hurts thinking about it, I'm sure. But
Hey, the greatest thing is we take Square, and we take credit cards.
Any other appearances that you want to promote?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing the week after that. I will be in Washington State for the Washington State Horror Con with Cassandra Peterson, Elvira. Chris Cam is going to be there. It'll be his very first convention, so it's going to
Wow.
be fun.
Yeah.
Susan Kellerman also will be there from Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Yeah, and that should be a lot of fun.
Well, Ira, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining the podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you in Lexington in a couple of months.
I'm excited.
Thanks.
Hey, remember, whatever you do, don't fall asleep.